For me, aid transparency is not just accessing to data, but also rationalizing how we have planned, how that's really, help us to achieve the result, and how that's really reduce the suffering of the affected population. That's why aid transparency has always mattered to me. My name is Shahana Hayat. I'm working as a humanitarian program manager with Christian Aid, and I'm based in Bangladesh. And my key role to provide strategic leadership for the growth of the humanitarian sector in Bangladesh, particularly to ensure that we are really achieving the goal of grand bargain, Charter for Change, and other global commitment in terms of while we are designing our humanitarian project and programs to respond to humanitarian crisis.
Shahana, can you tell us why aid transparency matters to you?
To me, aid transparency following international standard will enhance accountability towards affected population. At the same time, aid transparency will help us to link with efficient decision-making process. Because we are always talking about value for money, we are talking about practicing good process, and that is possible if we can really maintain a proper system and structure for aid transparency.
Can you tell us what kind of information you use the most?
Whenever we are trying to develop programming connecting to the bigger picture, who has been affected, what is the numbers of people affected, who are working in this field, what budgets are available, what are the gaps we need to meet through a coordinated approach. So those are the information is very, very important to understand how we are connecting the program designing and financial requirement.
So thank you, Shahana. Now we know that, of course, in Bangladesh, there's a variety of programming going on. You've got development programs, you've got humanitarian programs, including the response in Cox's Bazar in the south, and of course now there's COVID. Can you give us an example from your work of how you use kind of aid information to improve the quality of your programming?
You know that in the humanitarian field, we are addressing basically immediate needs, and then we go for early recovery, and then we try to relate with the development program in terms of resilient building, so that if the similar type of situation come back, people feel are equipped and resilient how to address that emergency. In short, I will say that timely, comprehensive, and comparable data is really required across the humanitarian development field to create a connected programmatic approach.
So we know that aid transparency is more than just publishing information. It's also about engaging around data and discussing data and planning activities together. Can you say something about how you engage either with international donors or with other local organizations in order to talk about data and to make inclusive decisions about aid programming in Bangladesh?
Let me give you a very recent example. In the COVID situation, many huge number of population lost their jobs, particularly the day labor, domestic helper, migrant worker, sex worker, transgender. They have really lost their jobs, their day-to-day earning, and in a very miserable condition. So collected the information from the community, engaging our civil society organization, our local partner. We developed a rapid needs assessment form. They help us to understand the context, what's going on at the community. And based on that, we have developed our report in terms of numbers, in terms of sectoral impact. And then we started communicating with our donor. For example, we have recently communicated with UN Women that what is the domestic women helper are facing, what is the situation transgender are facing at the moment and sex workers are facing at the moment, what is the numbers in terms of those people, and also how that is creating impact in the community as well. So then we create a kind of a clear strategic direction for the donor, that where the fund should go. And we also discuss with the government so that we are not duplicating with the government's revenue or safety net budget, that how far they can cover, how far NGOs can come in and can join the hands. And then we developed a kind of a COVID response plan for the short term for 6 months. And also we are developing a COVID response plan for another 2 years. We can address the resilient building issue, because we never know, COVID can come back again and again.
So Shahana, you and I met while Publish What You Fund was conducting some research on humanitarian aid transparency and data transparency. But now we're talking 2 weeks ahead of the launch of the 2020 Aid Transparency Index. In that context, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that donor organizations in Bangladesh could do differently in terms of their aid transparency, in terms of sharing information, that would help you with your programming in the country?
It's an issue of accessibility. Yes, we might have a minimum standard, and donor also and organizations also producing those data, but where they're keeping those data, do we have access to those information? The international NGOs, or also we are talking about local NGOs, also we are talking about community people. We also need to train staff how to use those data to make it more functioning for the organization. I think it is very important that organizations have a very clear policy, structure, and system so that organization can contribute to the data management system. It should be part of the audit compliance. Data sharing as part of the audit compliance, then I have experienced that organizations are really following that compliance. In the end, I just like to say that data transparency or aid transparency based on sharing accurate, timely, comprehensive, and comparable data is really important. It should be a non-negotiable commitment. There's no scope or luxury for us to work in isolation. And if we like to bring more connectivity, there's no alternative but publishing the data, what we are doing in the humanitarian and development field.